Okay, thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. We'll call to order the April 13th, 2023 regular meeting of the City of Binghamton Traffic Board. On the approval of the minutes, with crossed wires, so we don't have the minutes from the last meeting today. We'll vote on both March and April minutes at the May meeting. But just for everyone's knowledge, the recording of the March meeting is up on YouTube, as this meeting will be, if anyone needs it for reference, and then we'll approve those minutes at the May meeting. So we can move right on to new business. The first item on here is a requested review of the traffic signal at Moeller Street and East Frederick Street. This was an internal request. It sounds like the city has a traffic light that gets hit regularly by trucks and would need to be raised there. Cindy was going to look at the signal study for us and let us know if this was one of the ones that was recommended for removal.
Okay, I did take a look, and when we did the study in 2016, this signal didn't meet signal warrants, but the only reason we didn't recommend removing it is because of the proximity to East Junior. But I pulled up the traffic counts there, a new one that we had from 21, March of 21, and the volumes are very low. And I pulled up the crash reports there too, and there weren't any crashes at the intersection, which I'm not surprised. I mean, there's hardly any traffic there. So the only reason we didn't recommend removal before is because of the school proximity. And I don't know if that really would be an issue there, or if you could put it on, and we could put it on flash and just see how it works, because that'll control the intersection. And what they did on Bevere is they ended up putting an RRFB where the school is over at Roosevelt. They finally took that really old signal out.
What's that, Cindy?
The intersection over at Bevere, and I don't even know what the side street is. They're right by Roosevelt School. Yeah. Had a really old antiquated signal, and that one did come out, and they put in a what's called an RRFB, and where you push the button and you get a flash so you can cross.
Okay.
Because of the school there, but I think there's probably a crossing guard there too.
Okay.
I don't know that there's a crossing guard over at Moeller and Frederick, because it's the middle school. Yeah.
I don't see one over there ever when
There
I'm over
probably
there.
isn't, because it's the middle school. I don't think that you guys typically put them for the middle school. I think they put them for the elementary. Yeah. Sight distance is fine over there from what I saw. I mean, probably could be removed. That was the only reason that we didn't at the time. People were concerned about the school. But as far as the actual MUTC, Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, it did not meet warrants, and it still doesn't. So I think it should be okay if you wanted to take it. I mean, it's a really old signal, I can tell that.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I don't know, Ron, do you have any?
I didn't think it was needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think with the stop signs there, you have to stop. It's a stop sign, right?
Right.
They come down that hill and the light's yellow, they try to make it.
Yeah.
So I think it's safer for four-way stop itself.
Stop. Yeah, so you could put it on, you could go through the process of removal. It's like a 90-day period. You put it on flat. Just see if you get any complaints on it and see if there's any incidents happen, any crashes or anything. And if not, four-way stop is going to stop people.
Yep.
Chief, do you have any thoughts, or Officer Brown, any? I would be okay with that. And I think as part of it, we could reach out to the school and just let them know this will be going on
Yeah, we
flash.
do that, and you're going to have to put up.
We got the traffic study signs and all that.
Yeah,
we put up.
Yep. Do all that.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it does. Yep, we can do that.
So, what would we need a motion for today? What's the formal process for, like, we're not looking to remove it, but it's to,
You are eventually, right?
Yeah,
So I think in the past, they've made a motion for, the removal of the signal, but for the interim, to put it on flash, observe it for the 90 days,
okay,
and then come back to the board for actual removal.
okay,
So I guess it would be to start the process for removal. And then you'll have to vote on it again.
okay, and that's a 90-day process?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other discussion or thoughts on this? That would be great. Okay, then I'd look for a motion to start the process for removal of the traffic signal at the intersection of Moeller Street and East Frederick Street.
Motion.
Second,
All those in favor?
I
Any opposed? Okay,
think that would be good to get something back from the school.
okay. Yeah, Officer Brown or Chief, if you could just report back to us on that, what the response from the school is, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, the second item on here, this is a follow-up from the last meeting. It was the temporary no parking on Pine Street, near the new fire station. So currently there are no, temporary no parking signs, near the curb cut on Pine Street. That's, an entrance to the fire station. We were looking at whether those should become permanent no parking signs. The thought being that it would be necessary for some of the bigger fire apparatus to make the turn into the station there. If you recall at our last meeting, it was brought up that when the plans for the new fire station came to traffic board, the proposed traffic flow pattern for the new station showed that the fire apparatus would return to the station east via Court Street. So they're not entering from Pine Street. I spoke to the fire chief about that. He, I think was understanding. He said he would talk to personnel at the fire department and have them, he wasn't sure which way they're entering at the moment, but he'd have them start entering via Court Street and stop using that Pine Street entrance if they were. So I think where we left it off for the time being is that we could keep those temporary no parking signs on for just one more round here, but we'll hold off on making them permanent, make sure that works for the fire department. This is only when they're returning to the station, so it's not when they're leaving on call, so there's no public safety issue. And if we can preserve some of that parking there, I think that would be a positive.
Is there a definite time period that you leave the temporary signs up?
I don't know if there was a date on them, but I would imagine they're
No, it's not a date.
okay.
We want to add that to the motion, whatever the motion is, 6 months or until the next meeting or something along those
Yeah,
lines.
I would say to the next meeting if we're comfortable with that. That would give it would be like probably about a month and a half since I talked to the fire chief then, and we can just make sure that's
Then we have to make a decision if they come down or stay up.
right at the next meeting. So maybe what we do, if it makes sense, is just, do we hold it over one more time, leave the temporary no parking signs as is? And then if everything is going smoothly with them entering the station as proposed, then we can make we can take down the no parking signs there. Any thoughts on that, or that seemed to work? Okay. All right, so we'll hold that over and revisit it at the next meeting.
Do you want to make a motion to table?
Yeah, thank you. I would take a motion to table for next meeting.
Motion.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
I
Any opposed? Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda, this was a requested review for the removal of the no turn on red sign. This is at the intersection of Court Street and Water Street, in the eastbound lane. We looked into this, and talked about it. Our general thought on this is, my understanding is that the person who reached out to us was requesting this because the Water Street traffic between Court and Henry is now one way. because of the parking ramp construction there. So the applicant, I'm assuming, felt there's no need for that no turn on red sign. Our initial thought on this is that no permanent decision has been made on that traffic flow on Water Street. The garage will shortly be under construction. And for that reason, and because it's a heavy pedestrian area with that crosswalk right there, I think we wouldn't recommend doing this at this time, but I'd open it up to discussion if anyone has other thoughts on that.
It certainly may go back to two-way traffic after the completion of the garage.
Right. And that's what we're thinking, maybe keep it in place and see what the permanent traffic flow is there.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Okay. Tito, do we need a motion on that, or if it's no action?
I think motion to deny the
Okay.
request.
Okay, so I'd look for a motion to deny the request of the removal of the no turn on red at the intersection of Court and Water.
Motion.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, next on the agenda, this was a requested review from Councilwoman Rezanetti. This is a review of the intersection of West End Avenue and Floral Avenue. And a request, if I recall, Councilwoman, it was for either a stop sign there or other traffic calming measures to address speeding concerns.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. So I was asked to join a couple of folks over at the church there in the corner of Grand Boulevard and Floral Ave. And I think it's United Methodist Church. This was a couple of Wednesdays ago, 10 a.m. And so we literally sat there for a while and kind of watched traffic and, you know, cars going by. And they were absolutely correct in what they were sharing with me, which was the cars are flying by down that street. Now, right there, that church actually, well, besides regular services, whenever those are, they also have a lot of different meetings. They have dinners, they have AA meetings, they have all kinds of stuff at different times of day and night. And so there's often a lot of traffic right there. And that was one of the times actually when I was there, and the cars just would not stop. They would not slow down. Cars coming from making a turn onto Floral from Main Street, or even from the other side, from JC coming down. There was really nothing to slow them down. And so a bunch of us literally kind of like sat there in the corner waiting for somebody to slow down for us to get through, and it really wasn't happening. So there's also that convenience store there in the corner of Floral and West End, and there's a bus stop. So there are different times when, you know, it's busy. So their concern is that somebody's going to get hurt. And, you know, there's that light on Main Street, right in that corner. And then the next stoplight, I believe, is all the way down to where Floral Cemetery is, that part, whatever they call it, correct? So there's a big long stretch, and they're just coming down like, you know, some sort of a race course. You know, they're just running. So my concern is somebody's going to get hurt. And I did hear my constituents expressing those concerns, and I would like to just recommend or ask for some sort of study to be done, or something that we can do to slow down the traffic. I don't know what that would look like, but anything at all would be very much appreciated.
Okay. Any initial thoughts or discussion on this?
There used to be a date there in that church too.
There may be still. Yeah, I don't know.
They do fly through there.
They do.
I had trouble getting off West End.
Well, it kind of
don't stop.
Yeah, and I think what adds to that too is that, unfortunately, and I hate to say it, the same thing is happening coming down Grand Boulevard and West End. They're just flying down, and so they're just really that momentum, and they keep doing it on Floral. But I feel like it's just not a safe intersection. So any suggestions or anything we can do would be very much appreciated. Thank you for that. I'm just wondering what was also suggested was that we maybe consider the same thing that has been done in the corner of Crestmont Road and Main Street. On Main Street, there's just a yellow sign with arrows and any sort of, kind of indicates that you should be slowing down, that people are crossing. So it's not a stop sign, it's not a light, but it's something visual. I don't think picture it in my head what I'm saying.
Could have fluorescent signs for the marked crosswalk. I mean, that's one thing you could do. We have a count. I don't have a more recent count, but I have a traffic count out there from September of 2019. It's 24-hour, 3-day count. So it gives you hourly volume, but it also gives you speeds out there. So it's not brand new. Right. So in 2019, the 85th percentile speed is 28 miles an hour. And you can see it hour by hour. And this is on West End, or this is on Floral, just east of West End. So there were very few cars then, when this count was taken, going over like 40 miles an hour, which I know it's posted it's 30, but there were very few going. There was no one going over 40. Well, there were 3 people at one day went over 51. But for the most part, everybody was in the range like below 30. But it's not a great for that. As far as the traffic volumes that are out there, it don't have a count for West End, but I doubt that it would need the one for a 3-way stop and all-way stop. So that would work. But as far as improving the crosswalk across
Some visible
that.
signage, yeah.
Yeah.
That
That might
crosswalk.
help. It don't have a parking lot.
They do, and then they're going back and forth from the parking lot to the church, right? And that's where most of the time a lot of this problem comes up when cars don't stop, right? So somebody will start crossing and they feel it's safe, forget the cars coming down the street so fast that
On an old Google photo, it shows that they have one of those portable you can put out in the middle of the crosswalk, pedestrian. I don't know if they can get on a regular basis. Okay.
They used to. There used to be one there. The
Yeah, there used
daycare
to
was
be
there. I
one.
knew that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing you could put there too.
Yep.
Maybe
Yep.
a combination of those things. I mean, I think that the marked crosswalk with signage does slow people down and draw attention.
And there is a marked crosswalk there now?
There is, I think,
Yeah,
I believe so.
but I think the
Okay.
signs are missing, right?
I don't know on.
I don't
I
know
don't
if
think
there's
there's a
signs.
sign.
There's no signs, but
Oh,
there-
okay.
The
So you could do
pavement,
the
the
sign.
markings
yeah, we
are
can
there?
add the
I
signs.
believe
for
so.
sure.
Okay,
Yes, but nobody really seems to be paying attention to that.
Okay.
specifically.
yeah,
The reflective signs do help. I mean, they are friendly. Like that.
Yeah, we can add those and then we could put the one in the road too for vehicle production.
okay. All right, so it sounds like just as an initial first step, Chief, if the next time the speed trailer is available, if it could go out there, and if the traffic division can do some selective enforcement, manpower pending, that would be great. And then also if that happens, report back to us what's found. If there are a lot of if there's a lot of speeding happening out there, if additional enforcement's needed or other recommendations. And then if DPW could assist with the additional signage in the crosswalk area to draw attention to the pedestrians over there and hopefully slow down some of the vehicles. Kind of what I see as our next steps, and we can keep it on the agenda and revisit it at the next meeting to see if those efforts have helped at all. Any discussion or thoughts or?
I think part of the feel for that block there, the sidewalk goes direct to the curb. So like along Floral, alongside the church, and then there's some grass strip on the other side where there's some residential housing. So it's a narrow street, and obviously we can't redesign the street there, and it is a bus route. So I think probably part of the concern for the churchgoers there and the people in the area is just the physical layout of the street. It is a high volume traffic area. I've had trouble getting off of both West End and Floral there. You wait a bit, it's certainly doable, but we'll send our traffic office over to see. Sometimes the speed trailer alone can make a difference. Now the weather's turning with more people over there. We'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Tito, I don't think that any of that, it's just a signage for an existing crosswalk, so I don't think any formal traffic board action is needed.
Okay,
And we would just keep it on the agenda for the next meeting. So would we do a motion to table or?
so you want to station the speed trailer there and install the warning sign, crosswalk warning sign, and then hold it over until the next meeting?
Just to revisit it
Okay,
and hopefully get some updated feedback.
yeah, so a motion to table.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'd look for a motion.
Motion.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda here, this was a requested review from the Family and Children's Society at 261 Main Street. This is sort of a two-part request. And the site plan that I passed out is related to this. So the first part of that is they're requesting 2 new curb cuts at 261 Main Street and 1 new curb cut at 264, 266 Main Street. And this is for to accommodate their proposed expansion, which is underway. They're expanding their building on Main Street and also adding additional parking across the street. And it's my understanding, Tito, Planning Commission's already approved this site plan here.
That's correct.
Okay, so it just comes to traffic board now for approval of the 2 curb cuts. I'm sorry, the 3 curb cuts in total.
I passed this by some of my people, and they seem to think that the city was not approving horseshoe driveways and they only were allowed 1 curb cut.
Would that have gone, is that a planning commission approval process or is that what comes to us for approval?
That the curb cuts themselves come to the traffic board. I think the planning commission approved it because of the orientation of that small parking lot and the fact that it's a drop off also for handicap accessible, the handicap accessible doorway to the building. So cars pull in, drop people off, and pull right out.
I only offer that as a comment that I got.
Okay, any objections to it, Ron, or any concerns?
I don't have any objections. Just
I can see the need for it here, and it's kind of a unique situation where their main parking's across the street, but they have their
Right.
handicap accessible spots closer to the building. And the one bit of input I've received from the personnel over there is that they do have a high number of individuals or clients using the building that require that accessible parking. So I think in this case, it may warrant it.
Tito, we were just concerned a little bit about, I understand why they need the handicap parking, because you don't want to put it across the street, but just the way you're pulling out right into the driveway. Did that come up then? Do you have any concerns about that? Especially the one closest to Main Street.
It may have.
Okay. I don't know how else you can configure it.
I think that was sort of the consensus is
that
this
was
is
the concern
the
that
best possible layout.
we looked at it. But I don't know how else they can get any handicap
Right.
spaces on that side of the street.
Right. Yeah, this was the best possible layout that has any parking on that side at all.
Do we feel generally comfortable with this as presented, or I'm not sure the timeline on this, but if the board feels strongly, we can always go back and ask for clarification. I know that they're already working over there, but in terms of a timeline for completion, I don't have that. If no objection, I would look for a motion to approve the 3 curb cuts as is.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So that portion of this passes. The second part of this is the Family and Children's Society is requesting a mid-block crosswalk connecting the properties. So connecting their building and their proposed expansion with the proposed parking lot that's going in across the street. I had reached out to Barton and LaJudas, who is the city's consultant on the Main Street project, just for their feedback on this, given that it's a crosswalk in a high pedestrian area. It's on Main Street where they're working with us, and it's also a mid-block crosswalk. What the consultant reported back was they looked at this initially in 2019. And at the time, I don't think I shared this, I will. But they submitted a justification for the mid-block crosswalk as part of the Main Street Federal Aid Project. They were basically running into some right-of-way issues with nearby property owners that they were waiting on. And they're also still waiting for that Main Street project to move forward. So while they had justified adding the mid-block crossing there, they had basically offered to give to us a revised layout for that crosswalk based on the site plan expansion, since they initially looked at it in 2019. So what I think I can do is I can share this from the consultant with all of you after the meeting. I can ask them to submit to us a revised plan for that mid-block crosswalk, and we can reconsider that portion of it at the May meeting, if that makes sense for everyone. Any thoughts or discussion on that? Okay, then I'd look for a motion to table the crosswalk portion of this request to the May meeting.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll revisit that in May. Okay, moving on to traffic board determinations. The first one here is this came up at our last meeting, Prospect Street and Glenwood Avenue. We had a constituent request a left turn arrow be added to the eastbound lane on Prospect Street. If I recall correctly, what we discussed at the time was that there is that intersection essentially couldn't accommodate the addition of a left turn arrow. It couldn't accommodate an additional lane there. But we had asked DPW to look into whether that light was able to be adjusted so that the timing.
Right. Right. So we can adjust the timing there. I talked to my connections with the state and a few other people I know in the signals business. And if we do that, we're kind of putting ourselves out there for a lawsuit without the arrow. If we go and mess with that timing east to west and don't have the arrow and there's an accident, we could be in trouble.
Okay, so they recommend not doing that without
They
the
recommend
additional.
not.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this? I know last time we had kind of talked about other ways we might be able to accommodate this request, but it didn't seem feasible beyond changing the timing of the light.
There's just not enough room there to put a left
Yeah,
turn
there's not
lane.
enough room for a turn lane.
If there was, then you could do something, but without that left turn lane.
Okay. All right. I appreciate everyone looking into this. But it sounds like we'd be looking to deny given the setup of the intersection there.
They should turn left 1 block back. And go around
One block closer to,
to the school.
okay.
That's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of beat that. Okay. All right. So I'd look for a motion to deny this request.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this request is denied. Thank you for looking into that, everyone. The next item on our agenda, five Pine Street. This is a request for widening the existing 10-foot apron at 3 Pines to 20 feet to allow access to 5 Pine Street. This is for a driveway which came to us over the summer, but I think there was an update from the applicant that she had received a letter from the adjacent property owner, basically signing off for the shared access there. Am I remembering that right, Tito? Was that the update from when we last looked at this?
Yeah, that's correct. There's two things. One is the neighboring property owner submitted a letter saying that there's no objection to the widening of the apron. She should be able to access, if the apron is wide enough, she should be able to access her lot without actually going on the neighboring property because there's enough width there. But so she didn't necessarily need the consent, but she did get consent from the neighboring property owner.
I think we still have the same concerns we had last time. Number one was, even if she gets in, she can't get out of her car without going on the neighbor's property. The other one is the tree. You're gonna have to cut some of those roots. Is the tree gonna die? I don't think Pat wants to take that tree out. And if we do approve it, I believe that it should be put in their deeds that each one has access to part of the other property. I had that in my deed on Matthew Street because my neighbor shared my driveway and it was in our deeds. Because if the neighbor who just said, I don't care, sells, a new neighbor comes in and puts up a fence, she's done.
I agree with Ron. I was going to say the same thing. If they go ahead with it, they should get the cross easements put actually in their deeds.
Yes.
It's just too close, and just because they agree when they go to sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll note that the letter that the neighbor provided is not really legally binding. It's just a letter from the neighbor.
Okay. And then the Sergeant Music was out earlier this month to measure because he saw the tree there too. He said there's exactly 9 feet from the driveway of 3 Pine Street to the tree that is in front of 5 Pine. Looking back to the minutes from July, we left it to the engineering office and planning to figure out exactly what the property line between 3 and 5 Pine Street is, and if the driveway could be installed without encroachment.
But I think that when you do the driveway apron, you're going to get into the roots of that tree. You're going to have to cut them.
Okay.
And that may kill the tree.
Okay. Okay. I'm just thinking because I'd like to be able to support this because of the lack of parking there, and we always hear from the Pine Street residents. But I understand the concerns. Would it make sense to have Parks out to look at the tree and see if it's something that has engineering already looked at it, Ron?
Well, Pat hasn't looked at it, but we have.
Okay.
Every time I go to Pat to get rid of a tree, it doesn't go over well.
Yeah. No, I don't think we wouldn't want to lose the tree there either.
But if we do go ahead with it, I would like to see it in their deeds.
Okay. Okay.
Can we have Pat get back to us if when that apron goes in, if he thinks that tree will live or not? Or
yeah.
if he's willing to part with it?
Yeah, I think that's a good thought. I'll reach out to Pat after this meeting and ask Parks to go out, have his arborist go out and take a look.
Thank you.
And see if they could do this and without getting in the way of the roots there. And if the answer is yes, when we look at this next meeting, if we push it forward and support it, we would let the property owner know that the cross easement should be added to each of the deeds. Okay, so I guess for now we would table this for next meeting, and I'll reach out to the Parks Department to take a look at that tree in the meantime.
Motion to table?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That's tabled. Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Veterans Ave. This is actually the street that runs through MacArthur Park in between the tennis courts and the ball fields. The Parks Department was requesting stop signs and crosswalks at various intersections. I passed out before the meeting the IDC that the traffic department did. Sergeant Music was out with the Parks Commissioner looking at some of the concerns over there and Parks recommendations for making that area more pedestrian friendly. He outlines those recommendations in the IDC. So it's some additional stop signs and crosswalks being added to that area, and then replacing a stop sign that's missing and adding some 15-mile-per-hour signage. Again, just to make that area, which is pedestrian friendly, a little bit safer. Any discussions or thoughts on the IDC and the recommendations proposed within it?
Yeah, I believe it's needed.
Yep, me too.
Okay. I would look for a motion then to accept the recommendations as outlined in the IDC from the traffic division for Veterans Avenue.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Okay, and then the last one on the agenda here, this is Susquehanna Street and Washington Street. The traffic board was looking at designating a bus stop location for OCCT at the southern corner of the intersection as a solution to some of the problems that are being caused now with where the bus is stopping currently. I still need to reach out to OCCT on this. Cindy provided me with a contact, and I'm hoping this is something that we can work with them on to identify a location.
And then Jasmine had also responded, they're working on the sidewalk there, so we probably should wait till the sidewalk work was done on to do anything on Washington because it's all blocked off.
Okay. Okay.
So it's lots of parking there too.
All right. So I think that's a good point, and I will reach out to OCCT anyway just to get the ball moving on it and flag this for them.
Even if by next semester it could, something be done. That's all.
Okay.
I think it would help.
Okay. And then we can, I think, Tito, we can keep this on the as sort of a reminder going forward. And I just look for a motion to table.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Any additional business or items for discussion? Okay, I take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.